welcome back to my channel. In today's video I am doing some more stenciling. This time I am using a PinkFresh Studio-Wintery Trees, I believe is the stencil set. So there are 6 layers. Yes, 6 layers. The last layer is what is actually supposed to add what is supposed to look like the snow on the branches. So you could do that as snow, or you could use something different for that, or leave it off if you wanted to. We're going to do some heat embossing. I have some Recollections Snow Detail Embossing Powder. I have Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment Ink. I have this set from Honeybee. This is the Big Hug Small Card, Big Hug Stamp and Die Set. I show you Glitz Glitter Gel here. Y'all, it is hard as a brick. When I went to go use it, it was trashed. So won't be using that today. Here I have some Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to do a green version and a blue version. The green version is actually going to be my father-in-law's birthday card, and the blue version is just going to be probably a card that I send for flowers for Anne. So my green combination I pulled off of Etsy, and I apologize, I don't remember who inspired that particular combination, but I did pull that off of Etsy. So the first color is Shabby Shutters, then I use Twisted Citron, Evergreen Bough, Rustic Wilderness, and Pine Needles. And I ink blend fairly far down with each layer. These are all going to have some sort of overlapping of some degree or another. And so just to make sure that I don't have any like white areas, I'm trying to blend down further than I think I need to. I do end up having some white areas on both the green and the blue version, but it was very simple to either line back up the stencil or just use leftover ink on my brush and put it back, and fill in the white areas. So what I've done here is I have a sticky Cricut mat that I've cut down, and I'm using this as the sticky mats that everybody's paying lots of money for. I had these on hand, and I had more than I was going to use. I'd cut this down trying to use it for something else. It didn't work. So this is now just a mat that I use anytime I stencil. And I'm lining up the stencil in a corner, and then the paper is staying there. So the paper doesn't move, but I line the stencil up in the corner, and that way I know that I'm getting things lined up right, and I'm not having to like fidget and fiddle and figure things out each time. I can just leave the paper there, and then I know that each time if I line up the corner of the stencil in that corner on that grid, then I know I'm getting everything in the right place. I'm going to speed the video up quite a bit here, just because I'm doing the same thing, lining up the corner of the stencil in that corner, and then ink blending down. Again, I'm trying to ink blend down further than I think that I need to for the upcoming layer. This is the layer that I should have ink blended down further but didn't, and I don't realize that until I'm done and have that 5th stencil down that I have like a white gap there. Not a big deal, but something to be aware of. Ink blend down further than you think. So this is the Pine Needles. This is the last stencil until you get to that accent stencil. So there you can see that left corner that I've got like a gap. I'm trying to figure out which stencil I need in order to kind of mask things off. But honestly, for the blue card, I didn't even do that. I didn't put the stencil back in place. I just used residual ink and just kind of ink blended over it. I didn't worry about masking it. So in order to get the paper off, you just peel the mat away from the paper, and that keeps your paper from warping. In order to clean my stencils, I just spray it with stamp cleaner onto my flour sack cloth and wipe it off. That works really well for me. I know that Jennifer McGuire has started to use like rubbing alcohol to clean her stencils off, and I am sure because she is a genius that that works phenomenal. This is just what I do, but you do whatever works best for you. I'm going to wait to put that final kind of snow feature on until the very end, because initially I thought I was going to use that Glitz glitter gel from Gina, but like I said, it was hard as rock, so that did not happen. So we're going to really speed this one up because it is the same thing that we've already done. I'm just going to tell you the colors that I'm using. So for this blue one, I am using Tumbled Glass, Salvaged Patina, Salty Ocean, Chip Sapphire, and then Black Soot. I didn't have a dark blue darker than the Chip Sapphire, and so black is kind of the next step in that sequence. Again, just trying to ink blend down further than what I think that I need. I have another gap again, but again, it's not a huge deal. Always trying to line up that stencil in the left corner and just ink blending down. So here it is all ink blended. I think it looks really pretty. So here I have the layer that is supposed to be the snow. Like I said, I wanted to do Glitz Glitter Gel, hard as a rock, not salvageable. So I'm taking that Hero Arts Unicorn White pigment ink, and I'm going to take I'm just going to smush it onto a craft mat here, and I'm going to ink blend with a blending brush that is dedicated just for white pigment ink, and I'm just going to ink blend that over. I was kind of smushing it on the craft mat, just because I was trying to make sure I didn't contaminate the colors, but there wasn't any color that was kind of bleeding over, so it wasn't a big deal. You could always stamp this with Versamark ink and white heat emboss over it. If you have some of that puffy heat embossing powder, you could definitely do that. This just adds a very like loose snow effect to the tops of some of those tree branches. And I did that both on the blue and the green. I did go through and heat set each of those just to make sure, and then I'm sprinkling on some white embossing powder. This is Recollection Snow Detail Embossing Powder, just to make sure that they were indeed dry, because we have quite a bit of ink on these, and I didn't want my embossing powder to get absolutely everywhere. So I am just sprinkling that on there, and if it all falls off, it's dry, you're good to go. If it sticks, then you need to heat set it some more. I'm using this honeybee stamp and die. I'm not using the die today, but I am using the stamps. And I'm just going to stamp each of these sentiments out on their perspective card panels. And I'm going to use that same detail snow embossing powders from Recollections. I do treat it with my anti-static powder tool and then stamp it, making sure it's in the corner. And I do stamp it a couple of times just to make sure I get a nice clean impression. And something really solid for that embossing powder to stick to. So that is the first one. That is going to be the birthday card. And then the blue one is just kind of a generic one. And I'm going to do the same thing, treat it with my anti-static powder, stamp it a couple of times, pour on my embossing powder, and then I will heat set both of these at the same time. Once those were heat set, I am going to trim about 1/4 of an inch off the top and the bottom and one side on each of these, just so that when I apply them to my craft card base, I have a little bit of a border on each side. I am going to take these and glue some black fun foam. This is from Amazon. I'm trying to kind of work through this and get rid of it so that I can start using just actual scrap paper to pop up my cards, but I'm almost out of it, so hopefully just a couple more times. But I'm going to glue a piece of this craft foam to the back of each of these cards and then glue them to the card front panel. The final thing I'm going to do is take some black pearls for the blue card and some green ones for the green card. These were purchased from Amazon forever ago, and attach those to the card with some wet glue just around the sentiment. And then that is it for both of these cards. I want to thank you for spending time with me today. I hope you feel inspired. These would be really easy cards to mail and send out to people. And I think they looked really good. I liked the color combination. So thank you so much for spending time with me. We'll see you next time.